What is going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus. We'll be started up in just 1 minute. Big news. Big news coming. Very excited to talk about some stuff tonight, talking about the stream tonight, talking about different things. But first, let's get to business. I am starting up our chatbot right now. And it'll make it a little easier to join us in Discord here. So if you see the screen, Pantheon PlusYou, if you haven't been here before, is not just a show where I sit here and talk about things. It's a show where you're invited on to talk what you want to talk about. And to do that, you have to jump into our Pantheon Plus Discord, and you can jump into a channel called the Green Room. Now, the Green Room will allow you to queue up, essentially, to tell me that you're looking to come on to the show. And to get there, once we boot up our chatbot here, I will link in the chat that you will be able to hit exclamation point Discord starting right now. And that will give you a link to get into our Discord. We're a community based around Pantheon. Is an amazing community. And on top of that, like I said, you will be able to jump into live shows, talk with the community, learn some different stuff like that. Yeah, we have some exciting things to talk about with the promotion there at the end. For sure. But there you go, guys. That's the link to come in. We are an MMORPG. So we're starting up now. No more talking. Let's get into this show. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the go button.
Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just,
A Pantheon Plus production.
What is going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and tonight we're talking about the dev stream recap. I was fast and furious at work here. I wanted to get all these pictures up in a slideshow for you guys in a video. So we have the pictures. We'll talk about some of the notes, but most importantly, we want to make sure that you guys are able to jump in and hang out with us on the show. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you thought of the stream. And we have amazingly huge news that was said during the stream. We're going to go more into detail on that. And on top of that, I'm really happy that they said it before I could, because I didn't know if I was allowed. So we're going to have a lot of cool stuff to talk about tonight. This show typically goes about an hour to an hour and a half long, depending on who is in the green room and who wants to come on the air. We already have 3 people lined up in the green room and a few people that are AFK that might be jumping in there as well on the Discord. So again, if you want to come on the show, come on. It's really fun. You have the free will to talk about whatever you want, as long as you're respectful. And come on and tell us what you thought about the stream, questions you may have, talk about anything. Tonight's topic is the dev stream recap. So we're obviously going to be focused on that and the big news that's coming up, obviously. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go through a couple notes here of my own, and then we're just going to jump right into that green room. So right now we have Hoye, Drac, and the Gamesman. Booch is in there. It is wide open. Come on in. We will make sure that we do everything in our power to bring everybody who gets in that green room in. Obviously, time is going to hurt some of that. So first, I didn't get a chance to because it lit up pretty big here, but I just want to thank Boss, Jeffrey, Snow Trudger, Desroth, Bloodshot, Carrie, I'm not going to pronounce that right, I'm sorry, Big Business Brah. I like that. Big Business Brah. And Drac Attack, thank you for the sub there. Thank you guys for following. Thank you guys for being a part of this. This is a community show. It doesn't exist without you guys. Trust me. Again, nobody wants to hear me talk by myself. Sometimes we'll have guests on. Tonight it's just me, because there's a lot of work going into tonight, some of the stuff going on behind the scenes. So let's jump into some quick notes. We started the stream with seeing more time lapse, which I actually really like. Big Shoes, thank you for the follow. We saw some more time lapse just to kind of see how they go from gray box. And some of the interesting points that I want to reiterate real quick is just that they really talked about how they're not afraid to gray box to get the game playing well, that the gameplay is what's most important. Gray box it, make sure it works. And once they know it works, let's pretty it up. And that strategy and not being afraid to show it to us as a community is really cool. Some people may not be interested in that. That's completely fine. And I get it. I understand that, because development's not exciting for everybody. But at the same time, we're seeing more than we get to see of a game. And when we do get to go into Terminus, it's going to be really exciting because we have this back knowledge of this game that we don't get in many. So pretty cool. And I do love what was just said in chat there by Mako. That was a fast 35 minutes. When it's a fast 35 minutes, you know something good is going on. So then they talked about stats, and I'm really curious when you come on to the green room, which is filling up. I love it. We have a lot of people in the green room. Keep rocking. We're going to get to all you guys. Stats. So they talked a lot about stats, and I think that when you hear the word, when you hear the phrase, we're going to talk about stats, that doesn't always seem exciting. But wow, stats ties into everything. And I'm a math guy. My freaking handle is minus. My guild was called plus. This whole thing is Pantheon plus. I'll probably have characters named Division. Okay, so what am I? I'm a math nerd. I'm a theory crafting math nerd. So when you talk stats, I get really excited. But they dove into some of that stuff, and specifically what Kyle Olson has done. And I'm really interested to hear what you guys thought about this simulation build that they made to be able to test stuff very quickly. And last week on Pantheon PlusYou, we actually talked about tanks. And one of the big concerns was, what's it going to be like to be a Dire Lord in male versus a plate-wearing tank, or the mitigation systems? So what's really interesting is that was a specific point they brought up in talking about how they were able to run these simulations, get thousands of simulations in seconds, and be able to look through them and see how the tanks performed with different mitigations. So that was really, really cool. I thought that was a neat thing for them to bring up. It was topical because we talked about that last week, and it's really just tells you that they're able to do this before implementing it in, and they were very specific to the reasoning, right? Like, we're going to get in there and test. There's a lot of alpha testers, and there's a lot of there's not as many pre-alpha testers, but there's a lot of alpha testers. So when we do get to play, we're not going to be playing something we're really trying to figure out. We're going to be ahead of the curve on that. It's going to allow us to really test systems, to really experience things and see how that plays and how it feels. So the simulation part of it is really cool. Again, I'm a super numbers nerd. I understand that if I could go on for the hours about numbers. I honestly could. And I understand that you guys probably aren't as excited to do that, so I'm not going to continue doing that. But it's a really exciting, cool thing that they brought up there talking about the stats. And they said something really cool. I like phrases. I like catchphrases, whether you want to play a game and someone's like, well, it's this. I always thought that if you could sell something with a catchphrase, or you could remember a catchphrase, the one that really stood out to me was Joppa said specifically, it's about proving truth through execution. And I love how that was said, because that can stand out. It's not just talking about what we're going to do. They're now able to go to a level and test it and prove it before just setting up all these scenarios and all the setup it would take to do that. They can get in there, do it, and then implement in a little bit more of a rough version of it that will still need testing. They were very adamant that you still will need a player test, but a really interesting thought process on that, and I really like that. And then they kind of mentioned how once these stats are all set up and once all these tests are running, well, then itemization becomes really easy to do. So again, really cool. Really, really cool. Okay, so then we got into the race models. I got to tell you, all of these races for me were not super exciting. Now, let me go back on that for a second. They weren't races I was going to play. The Scar is super original. It's something that makes Pantheon different from other MMORPGs. It's a lore thing where when you're playing a Scar, it means something to Terminus. It's not just some elf or halfling or a dwarf. It's something new. It's a piece of lore that's important to the game because it's a new race. Archai, same thing, new race. Darkmere, it's a new race, a twist on some old races put into one. So these three races are really important because they're sort of an identity of the game. Now, all three of them, I was never going to play. And the Archai didn't really impress me in a lot of the streams I saw. And I know, Lex, if you're there, I apologize. I hated the original Scar. They're like blobby thing. I didn't like it at all. It seemed too concept arty and not feasible. And I know that a lot of people won't agree with that, but the new Scar look really cool. They look more savage. They look evil. They're neat. And I like that they're short. I'm a halfling fan. Of course I do. But I got to tell you, the bodies and the art on the Archai and on the Darkmere are incredible. I was mind blown by all three of these races. So when we go into that green room, get into the green room. We're going to jump into that very soon here. Jump into the green room. Come on and tell me what you thought. But I was blown away by how cool those were. So, okay. So that's kind of the rundown. That's a quick couple minute rundown of what's been going on that stream in case you missed anything. The pictures rotating here are the character models that they showed. That'll continue to roll through the show. Okay. So what's the other bit of business here? Well, here, let me show you guys. This is what I've been working on. It's going to take me a second here. I'm going to add an image here. I didn't tweet this out yet. I haven't shown this to anybody. I've been working on it in the background. I didn't know if I was allowed to say anything. But here it is. Let's see. Maybe. I might be lying. Let me get this image up. Give me a second, guys. Let me get the image up here. I'm going to show this to you guys. I think it's pretty cool. It's worth the wait, I promise. We have a huge announcement. Ben spilled the beans, and I thank him greatly for that. But the cool part of it is that we are officially going to have next Thursday on Pantheon PlusYou at 9:00. We will have Chris Joppa Perkins coming on to Pantheon PlusYou special edition. We are super pumped for this. I cannot explain how honored we are to have him. And he is not only coming on the show. Yeah, did he lose a bet? He's not only coming on the show to do an interview. It's not a pre-recorded interview. And I would have settled for that. Now he's probably thinking, oh, why did I would have settled for that. Because it's been a long time doing this, a year and a half. I've never bothered these guys. I never wanted to pester them. But so this kind of came to be over a couple months. So here's the splash. You guys should be able to see on screen. March 12th, 9 p.m. Joppa will be on, and it will be a full episode of Pantheon PlusYou. We're going to go for 1 hour. I don't want to keep him here all night, but he's going to be here for an hour, and we're going to go through an interview Q&A with myself, some questions that I wanted to be able to ask, some things that I've had on my mind for a while, and we're going to try to wrap that up in the first half hour. So we're going to have our moderators trying to keep me on track, and then he has openly said he will be here to answer questions the same way that we always do with Pantheon PlusYou. He will allow open questions. He may not be able to answer them all. And we're going to send some stuff out to the community in our Discord. So if you're not in our Discord, remember !Discord. We'll get you the link. We'll put out some different things. Like, don't come on and ask for alpha dates, guys. You get a chance to talk to Joppa. Come in, ask him some cool stuff you've wanted to say. You get to talk to him one-on-one. It's something only this show can do that I've seen. I'm sure there's others that have done it. I'm not that original that I came up with the world first or anything, but it will be the only time that you can come on to Pantheon PlusYou and actually talk to Joppa, the guy that's doing this all for us, the one that's been the creative director of this game. So thank you to Visionary Realms. Thank you to you guys, because they wouldn't come on this show if they didn't think it was worth their time. You as a community have given information. You express yourselves. You're in the Discord. Spread the word. Let's get more people to come check it out. So, okay, that's it. That's it for me. There'll be a lot more information coming out this week about that show. I hope you guys can make it there. Super excited about that. Let's go ahead and jump into the green room. So we are going to start with Drac, who is one of our first one to come in. Drac, come in. Tell me what you thought of the stream. Tell me what you thought of the models. Just anything. It's fair game. So Drac, you'll be the first one in. What's going on, Drac? How are you tonight? Are you there, Drac?
I'm doing good. Hold on. I got to mute.
That's okay. Okay. Yeah. It's like if anyone hasn't been on the show before, it's welcoming. Jump into the green room. You can come on. Just mute your Twitch stream. So what's up, man? How are you? He's muted. He muted his own microphone. He muted his own microphone, not us. So Drac, I'm going to toss you back up into the green room. And then when you're ready, I'll bring you back. So Hoye, we're going to jump to you next. You were sort of waiting. So Hoye, you are up. What's going on, Hoye? How are you? Hello. Nobody's here tonight. Hoye's missing as well. We have not had this ever happen where we had two people who weren't available. Two people. So I'm going to drop Hoye out. Drac looks like he's back. Drac, I'm going to grab you and bring you in. Drac, are you back? Are you ready?
I am. I muted the wrong thing.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, listen, this is Pantheon PlusYou. Things get crazy. Okay, Drac, so what'd you think of the stream first and foremost, which is, everyone has to drink now because I say that so much. Drac, what did you think of everything?
I thought it was great. I thought it was short, but I thought it was great. I
35
plan on
minutes.
playing an Archive Summoner.
Yeah.
So I was super excited to see the Archive.
The Archive were incredible looking. I gotta tell you where they came from to where they are now. It's good stuff. There they are.
Yeah, they look super exciting. I love the light and how they said that they light up in the dungeons. I just think that's going to be super cool, wandering around in dungeons and be able to be kind of like a Human Torch.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's super unique. I think the detail. I mean, wow, what do these character models for you say about the graphics? You know, one of the complaints about Pantheon's been graphics, character models, animations, but the graphics on these character models are insane.
Right. I think I said it last time, but like I was good with the graphics before.
Yeah. Awesome. So what would you say? Did this stream deliver for you? Was it somewhere in the middle, or do you think you wanted a lot more?
Well, I mean, I think it was like an 8. I think the last stream was like a 10. That one was super epic, but this one's like an 8. But I'm also super excited for you and for next week to interview Joppa. I think that's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm nervous, but it'll be a lot of fun. You guys will help me get through it, because I'm definitely nervous to be speaking to Joppa one-on-one. It should be awesome. We're gonna do a ton of we already have a plan in place for press releases. We're gonna hit every site we possibly can. We're gonna annoy everybody to say, hey, there's a Pantheon thing coming. We want to try to get as many eyes on Pantheon. So spread the word, guys. Let's get everyone to come check out Pantheon. Hopefully get some pledges out of it. We're gonna go all out for it. So I'm excited for that. So Drac, awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was an awesome stream. I totally agree with you. But it's hard to top Fairthale, right?
Yeah, that was the best last week, but This was pretty good.
Awesome, Drac. Thank you very much, man. And thank you for what you do for the community. If anyone hasn't seen, Drac does, I'm gonna give you a little plug here if you don't mind. Drac does Pantheon profiles for people in the community. And Drac, if you want to throw a link to it in the stream chat, please do. The Pantheon profiles are fun. He keeps a database of different Pantheon fans, answer questions about just what you want to play, what you've played before, your race and class. It's just a really cool little thing. He'll throw it out on Twitter, something you can kind of have to show off your character profile. So Drac, when you get a chance, put it into the Twitch chat for people and they can check that out and maybe apply to make a profile. So I think it's pretty cool.
Will do, man. Thanks for the plug.
All right. Thanks. Take care, man. Appreciate it. And Little Turtle Jerk said, you got to take off. Can't wait to see you next week. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the congrats. You are awesome. So thank you for that. Thank you. And guys, now's your time to start thinking. If you're someone who's been in the green room very often, we're going to try to say thank you to the people who show up often. We're not going to just throw content creators in. The community that supported Pantheon PlusYou. If you're always jumping into the green room, if you're always here for the shows, we're going to try to get you on the air to have a one-on-one with Joppa and myself next week. So just to say thank you to the community. So jump in here now if you haven't. Make it the first time. Okay, so next up, we're going to grab Booch, who is in there as well. The Gamesman, one of the new members of the Voices of Terminus team, who is going to be on there from time to time. So Booch, the Gamesman, welcome to Pantheon Plus, Booch.
What's happening?
Not much, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm psyched. That was a nice stream, huh?
Yeah. I mean,
dude, I was surprised by a few things like that. I was really, really waiting for the Scar because I was totally against that Scar concept art, and I'm glad they went more humanoid with the Scar and away from like the lizard look. Although the Scar does look like he's been up doing rails all night because his eyes are bugging out of his head. But other than that, I like that look, and the Scar female has a nice rack. Definitely better than the Arkai and the Darkmare.
Only on Pantheon PlusYou are you going to get that kind of detailed analysis from the Gamesman.
The other thing that's nice is they went away from the concept art on the Darkmare.
Yes.
And it's awesome. They did, look at the text, they put great texture on it, and they changed the colors where everything used to be all blue. Now they gave them like that greenish hue.
Yeah.
And now I was originally going to be the Archive Bard. Now I'm thinking I might be Darkmare Bard.
The Darkmare look really cool.
They look really good.
The texture of their skin and the coloring and I think they defined it as like the translucence of their body. It screams the lore of the race very heavily, so it aligns very well. It's not just pretty to look pretty. But yeah, man, I agree. And the ears, did you notice the ears are like finned?
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
little details
Well,
like
look how shredded up that Arkai is, though. He might have to be tested
that.
for PEDs.
They're
Although
made of PEDs.
I could, as a Arkai bard, I could play my washboard abs. That could be like a, like a stringed instrument. You could play your abs if you're that shredded up. You know what it reminds me of? I was telling Theric, it looks like the movie Prometheus. Remember the aliens from that movie?
Yeah.
That big jack bald-headed dude. That's what the Arkai kind of look like. But of course, they got that cool, that rocky texture to their body. That looks, I think they did a great job.
It's just amazing. Each one of the races, you see them all on the screen right now in front of me. There's these interesting things about each one. You have the details and the cracks in the rocks with the coloration of the Arkai. You have the skin translucency of the dark mirror.
The dark mirror with the banana hammock. He's got the banana hammock on too.
Nice. And then did you notice on the female scar, I don't know if you want to call them glands or the skin texture in the abdomen area is almost like a translucent as well. It's like this different style material. It's pretty neat how they kind of have these really significant features that are not just significant, but extraordinarily detailed.
Yeah, everything is. I mean, to be honest with you, I would have liked the dark mirror the way they originally had it from the concept art. It would have been fine that way, but this way it looks awesome. I mean, it fits the lore. You know,
yeah,
what
and
I
you
mean?
can kind of see on the male right there in the rib cage, almost looks like sliced gills,
like gills, right?
Yep.
Really
cool details. Really, I mean, I'll tell you, they've been working on these for a while, and you can tell. And I think if they would have came out and they wouldn't have looked so great, we probably would have been like, what took so long to show this?
I'm really glad they went away from that that animalistic look on the scar. They went more humanoid with it. It looks way better, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like the blobby concept art from the original one. It was very blobby. The neck was kind of blobby. It was there's that Dane Cook joke where, do you know someone who's just shapes? That's kind of what they were. They were just shapes.
Yeah, but that's Trick. They did a great job on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And everybody just if you wanted to do one of your profiles and have Drac make a profile for you, again, really cool little thing you do. He just linked it in there, so definitely check that out. What'd you think? I mean, obviously the character models are gonna be the big talk of the night. Everyone's pretty pumped up about those. But what'd you think about the stats talk?
I mean, it was he was pretty in depth about it. I mean, it's really the most important thing in an MMO. I mean, the stats are everything, really, if you think about it. When you, as far as your character goes, you know what I mean? I mean, stats are, like you're saying, everything's math basically when it boils down to.
Yeah, the underneath the scenes.
Yeah, everything is math, no matter what.
I'm just interested. The testing environment sounds like it is really good. They see it in. I'm not a psychologist, but I've been leading people almost my entire life for the last 20 years. And one of the things I've really personally feel like I've become good at is reading people. Mm-hmm. And when I watch these streams, I don't know if you guys do this too. There's probably people that do this just like me, but it's not just listening to what they're saying, but it's watching how they say it. You can kind of watch their mind wander a bit, especially Joppa. He's very animated. You can tell when he's really excited about something, that when there's more. And I saw a lot of that when it came to talking about how good this tool is. And I think that's pretty important. I'm excited because Bronson is actually in our green room, who is a developer. And I think I'm interested to hear what he thinks of the development of the tool side of it. So pretty interesting.
I mean, it's nice, like you're saying, it's nice to watch when you see Joppa answering a question, you can tell if it's like outside the realm of possibility, something that he has a tell, you know what I'm saying? In other words, when they ask a question that he knows the answer to, chooses not to because he doesn't want to divulge everything. You can totally, because you can see he's thinking and he's like, oh, did I say something? And then he's like, oh, we can't comment on that at this time.
With kind of like a little smirk almost, like I'd like to tell you.
Yeah, it's almost like what's gonna come and what's not, which is cool.
Awesome. So where would you rate this? Did this one deliver? I mean, we're coming off of a Fairthel stream, so obviously I think no matter, it would have been pretty hard to top. But on its own, did this deliver for you? Were you excited?
Absolutely. I think realistically, if you think about it, like I've been saying before, every 2 weeks is for some big reveal. Every 2 weeks is just too much to ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is really all we should expect is something cool like this. You know, to me all you really need.
Yep.
Because realistically, I mean, what are you going to get? One of those great Fairthale streams every 2 weeks? That's not possible. You know what I mean? It's just not possible.
It's gonna be awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, sir. I hope you can make it next week when we have Jop on. This should be super exciting.
Oh, I will be waiting. I'll be here waiting with bells on.
It could either be the future of expanding Pantheon PlusYou, building our community, some exciting things. It'll be the last time anybody from VR ever talks about Pantheon Plus again.
That is true.
No pressure. Awesome, Booch. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. So we're going to look at bringing in Bronson next, and then we'll bring in Vandrid and then Shepto and Hoye. Give me some kind of heads up if you're back and ready to go, so I know to bring you in. Last time I brought you in, you weren't there. So just something, ping me or say something in the chat so I know you're ready to go, and I'll bring you in as well. So Bronson, let's go ahead. We're going to bring you in now. What's up, Bronson? How are you?
Hey, man.
What'd you think?
This is perfect for me. It's great. I mean, this is actually better than the last one for me.
Yeah, you're so anyone who doesn't know, we say it a lot, but we get new viewers who aren't familiar with everybody. Bronson is an art designer in gaming. Has done it. Geez, I mean, at this point, knowing the game that I love that you made, you've been doing it for quite a long time. So tell me a little bit about because your view is sometimes a little different. Tell me a little bit about these designs. What are things that stand out to you? What do you like? What don't you like about the different models?
I do like the Scar a lot, even though there's things I personally do differently, but I liked it a lot. I love, like you were mentioning earlier, the and also what Joppa was mentioning, Chris Perkins was mentioning about the subsurface scattering, which you mainly see a lot on parts of the Dark Mirror and also on the female Scar, with that translucent element that you see on her stomach, her abdomen area, and our arms and undersides of her arms. It's super cool looking because it makes the females look very different from the males first of all. But all that texturing, they have all the scales and all that really kind of it's called like a metallic gloss map, which basically gives you that feel of the dull, which is the gloss, gives you a dull look on on the sky here. The Archive has that stone quality. That's sort of a gloss, heavier on the gloss, whereas you have more metallic, gives it more of a shiny appearance, like you see on the Dark Mirror. Okay. And you have all these different patches of that you can apply. And whoever did it, I don't know if it was their artist Will Berry, who was one of their character artists. I don't know if he's the one but he did a really, really great job at these characters.
So with really this kind of detail in modern gaming, I mean, they're really detailed. We could probably take them against some of the best, what we would call the best graphical MMOs. We could probably take these models and put them side by side and say these are really high-end models. Now, two questions for you. You're familiar with the techniques. You've been talking about the techniques that you're familiar with to do these types of things. Is this going to drain systems? Do you think that that people will be able to play at this graphic level fairly easily with the way that the structures of these systems are made these days? Or do you think that you're probably going to see the average gamer have to tone these down a bit?
I don't think that. I mean, today's gaming systems are pretty powerful, and with the video cards that we have now, by comparison to even just 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but I think everybody's going to have no problem playing this game. It really comes down to probably texture sizes and how big the texture sizes are on these characters, and how what options that players have to reduce texture sizes, or the mip mapping, as it were, which is you may be familiar with this. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people know what mip mapping is, but that's it. I don't see a problem with it. These look really nice. They probably are a pretty nice size texture on these, but probably I would imagine at least 2048 by 2048 size textures.
Yeah.
These could.
That was not a release date, I guess, people. just in case
Right,
anyone just
no.
jumped in and you heard Bronson saying, I would guess 2024, 2028.
Yeah, that's the texture size in pixels. These could be a 4096 texture size. They could be that big just for showcasing these,
Yeah.
but that's
It's just
they
interesting
could be.
with seeing how beautiful they are. We've seen some armor. I think we could probably all say that we haven't seen a ton of different armor in the game, and I'm curious. We're going to be covering up a lot of this. Now, I got to tell you, if I played Scar or even Darkmere, I don't know if I'd wear a helmet. Their heads look freaking awesome, and as a bald guy, they're repping. So the Darkmere there. So
Yeah, and I love all that. Like the gills look on. Maybe they have gills in their neck. It appears to me. And something.
Yeah, they got the finned ear. They have the gills in the rib cage area. But yeah, it's interesting because you wonder with the character textures that will be hidden, for the most part with armor, are we going to see the similar styling that we're seeing in these character models in the armor? Because with them trying to make a more realistic armor, that's something that has been said since day one for Pantheon. This isn't going to be your typical oversized, overgeared, overplayed type of armor. It's going to be true armor. Now, it's a fantasy game. It'll look a little cooler. But you're not going to have these oversized things that we're used to seeing in a lot of Korean MMOs or even in WoW. So I'm curious to see the detail that's put into some of that armor, if it's going to be covering this.
Yeah, we saw that, right? And that one in the Amber Fate. You saw that one upgrade.
When he put on the
armor.
full set. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That looked pretty sweet. So I imagine that we're going to see a lot of really cool armor that they're just probably keeping.
Yeah, they do have the finned gills. It's weird. The ones in the rib cage look like the ripped gills, and then you have sort of the finned gills in the neck, which is interesting. Yeah. And they did say so. There's and I think Fragile brought this up. He was upset that they had like a quicker swim speed or underwater breathing because in the lore, there's lore about how the Darkmere's biggest problem is coming to terminus. They couldn't breathe underwater. So I'm curious to see where the lore is going to be like they inherited the ability to do it because it's obviously going to be in the lore somewhere because he did say too that some of their cities underwater, which is cool. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out with the lore. But man, they look. I got to tell you, I did not like the Dark Mirror because they sort of replaced Dark Elves. And I know I joke about hating elves all the time, but I've played Dark Elves quite a bit and Dark Elves have a good lore. And it was hard for me to like the Dark Mirror because they were replacing a very iconic fantasy being, right? Like Dark Elf. You're not going to have Dark Elf. You have these Dark Mirrors. So wait, I'm an elf fish, but seeing them now, I don't see the elf anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They're very, the physique on them is very cool. So that each one is very different. That's what I like too. So the scars seem to be very they all have a very athletic look. And what I was thinking is when you look at all these,
well, the female Archai is actually on the screen right now, and I don't think it's a super. That actually stood out to me. Call me weird. But I thought that the size of like the legs and the hips of the female Archai, I actually like the female Archai more than the male. A lot more. Yeah, and as that picture comes back up, chat, tell me what you think. But there's something about the female Archai that just the way the body's put together is funny as it is to say that it feels more natural or looks more fitting for something that's made of rock and energy. I really like the female, and I really like the female Darkmere too. They're doing a really good job with the female models I've seen so far. And I know it's weird. I used to play only females. I'm probably not going to in Pantheon, but it's just they look good. I've played a lot of games where they don't. So
yeah, it's nice to see them all now finally, and that's why I like this stream particularly more than the last one. The last one I sort of had after seeing the Amber Fate one. I was already kind of geared for the next for the Fairthale, so that I knew that it was going to look really good, and based on that other teaser trailer that we saw. But this is nice because this is perfectly what I wanted to see because it's really refreshing to see the characters done, or at least to this point they looked finished to me, and they could ship it with. And because I mean, I'm so tired of games trying to make all the pretty characters and make them all look pretty.
Yeah.
Whereas these kind of have this, they're very interesting, and they're not overly beautiful characters because that they have the scar is this kind of very creepy looking creature. But
Mako
love that.
actually had some good points here. So I'm going to read these real quick. So he said he likes the archive female as well. He said he thinks it's the lines. The male lines go against his muscle and give him mass, where the female lines seem to go along the muscles. Actually, that makes sense now that it's on the screen right now, and that kind of makes sense. There's something in the hip to the legs transition and the shoulder base of the female that it's really weird. I can't fully explain. Just I see it. It looks really solidly good. So it's pretty interesting. What'd you think about the tool set that they talked about? Did that do anything for you? Just that simulation tool? I don't know how into numbers
love
you
it.
are. Yeah.
No, I love that they're actually able to do that, and they're running these simulations to get, the potential of what a fight might be like for us to play, and that's very, very cool to hear that.
It should really speed up the programming and testing time. This is what I get from that.
Yeah.
Because he made a very
that means they don't have to have like necessarily testers playing it if the simulations are accurate, which they probably are. That tells them all the information they need to know. So we jump in there and start playing it. Yes, there's going to be some discrepancies, and like Joppa mentions, there's all this texture with things, and it's not going to be just perfectly surgical on every fight, which is great because that gives it that more like, I don't know, just that inaccurate feel, like that randomness that you want from a fight. It doesn't feel so perfect.
Yeah, and it was and I already talked about it a little bit, but the fact that they went straight into the tank talk, which is a big debate too, and said, Joppa was almost smiling. He was so happy that we had this theory. This is how we wanted these tanks to work. We wanted their mitigation to be close to each other, but different. And he's like smiling, like it worked. So, I mean, we'll see it in action.
I cannot wait to jump in there and play this thing.
It's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear you so excited. And thank you for the sort of that industry type of feedback on the models. I know I talked to you a lot about that, my appreciation for it, but I think that the channel really likes it too when you get on here and talk about that stuff, because there's a difference between being a fan and being in there and doing it, and you're kind of both. So it's awesome when you can provide that kind of feedback to us. So keep doing it, man. Thank you.
Whatever. I'm just a gamer, so I love it. But either way, and congratulations, dude, on getting the interview with Joppa.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm nervous, but super excited. And I think that when you have butterflies in your stomach and you do something, it means you're really involved. You want to do it, right? You should always have butterflies. You should never be overly confident. When I used to go on stage, I had them all the time. So I definitely have butterflies that started today for next week. So I'll have to deal with those for the next week. So.
Nah, dude, you're going to do great.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it, Bronson. And thank you for the feedback, man. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.
See ya. Okay, we're going to grab Vandrad, and then we'll grab Hoye because he is back and hanging out. And then Shepto will grab you. So just stick in there for me, please. So Vandrad, you're coming in next. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Hey, sir. How are you?
Oh, you're in for a treat when Vandrad comes in, and the first thing you hear is that
giggle.
Laugh. The
Oh my
giggle.
God. I don't even know where to start. I'll start with the good stuff. How's that? Because everybody doesn't expect that.
Yeah,
so the discussion on the stats, awesome. Stats are critical. They're so important. You get them wrong, the whole game falls apart. Everything is built off of stats. So with them having this little algorithm that runs in the background that lets them do all these simulations, that's brilliant. That is amazing. I'm glad they told us that. Knowing that they've got something like that running in the background all the time just says, yes, we're taking this type of character balance and time to kills and that sort of thing very, very seriously. So kudos for explaining that. I think that they should tell more of those behind the scene things that they're working on, these tools that they've got. That should be something that they explain every single time. Keep bringing that stuff up.
Yeah. What'd you think? I mean, last week, I don't think you were able to make it, but we talked about tanks. I don't know if you checked it out, but what was your takeaway from that whole kind of give and take there?
I didn't get to see it, unfortunately. But
no, not our show. What was your give and take from like how Joppa kind of talking about the mitigation, the different play styles, but here's how they can perform against bosses?
Yeah, so I'll say that when it comes to group level content, you will be able to go with any tank anywhere. If they don't have that available, the game is in trouble. I still think, though, that when it comes to raid content, if the warrior is going to be good enough in most situations, that will be your go-to tank for everything. That's going to be the first tank you put on the line when you're facing new content to see if it's, the thing that you want to have up front. You're not going to say, oh, let's go with the paladin first. Nope. Warrior will be your default position, and then you adjust after that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because we did something we're gonna do a little more often is last week before the show we put a poll up so people could kind of get a vote in and we could
I saw, and Dire Lord was more than everything else.
Way behind. And it kept going after the show. I mean we hit over 100 people easily. I know it's not a ton of people, but we hit over 100 people and Warrior was still way behind.
Look at the synergies that the Dire Lord has with other classes. The fact that it can improve the heals that land on it means that, a cleric does a better job, a druid does a better job, the shaman does a better job.
Do you ever heal? Do you like to heal in these games? I mean, I know you've probably done everything.
My primary class is if a game has a shaman, that's what I play. That's my default, point.
Now, so do you like a pure healer? Like, no. So then when we look at the tanks, like I'm a cleric guy. So for me, I'm a warrior guy, right? That makes sense. Cleric, just heal when you got to heal. Right. It's kind of brute force healing. And then you have things like shaman, which are kind of a hybrid. Then you have like a druid who always seems to be dot based or hot based, I guess you'd say.
Right. Yep.
So it's interesting because the way they balance the tanks, and not only just to look at their mitigation, but what do the spikes look like? How long does the fight last? How much damage do they take versus mitigate? And then kind of lining that up in thought, like you're talking about the synergy of these different classes and being able to actually run a group synergy, which is crazy to think that they can run a group synergy and factor in a healing. That's pretty awesome. I mean, I know there.
I would love to see them show just an iteration of a fight and just see how those numbers pan out, because I do wonder how far can they go to take into account emergent gameplay and emergent behaviors that we know that the players are going to bring to this game. I'm assuming that their simulation is the mob standing there, the tank standing here, and they just whack, 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 and a heal will happen at some percentage of health and that sort of thing. There's not a whole lot of, a snare and then a back off to kick in a heal. And there's a lot of those nuances that I don't think that their system can handle. But the fact that they're doing it in the first place goes a long way to making the eventual testing that much easier, because they're going to have a better idea of how it should work.
Thank you, Lox, for the subscription there. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is interesting that and I said it at the beginning, I'm a numbers nerd. So that kind of stuff it excites me. Not everybody's a numbers nerd, right? But I am. And I love this guy who just followed us, Butt Chutter.
No, Butt Chunder.
Oh, Chunder, my bad. But that's
got a Chunder, mate.
Okay, so what's next? So you love the numbers in the simulation.
Yeah, so now we're going to get a character models. Okay. I like the models. However, I have to question why you would put in so much effort into the level of detail. Now, sitting here and staring at a static naked model is one thing, okay? You can see all this nice detail. You get into the game, and what's going to happen? You're going to start moving. You're always going to be moving. You're not going to see this level of detail when nothing is standing still for you to look at for a very long period of time. Next thing that's going to happen is you're going to start putting on armor and gear and whatnot. All of this stuff is going to be covered very soon.
Well,
except for rangers who will always be naked at their spawn points.
So let me rebut you just a tiny bit, because I was thinking the same thing, and I actually brought that up already, right? So we're aligned on that. But as you've been talking, like as you guys talk, I'm thinking a million miles per second, like 3 different things. I'm like, well, what's the difference? I just thought of this. What about the NPCs? Savage Scar packs that maybe aren't wearing a lot of gear, right? So I wasn't thinking about that when I was saying exactly the same thing you were saying. I was 100% in agreement with you. But I started thinking, like, what about it's not just the players that these affect. These models are also the characters we interact with. They're the savages we kill out. They're the bandits and thieves, and that are maybe not as geared. So you may have these guys in rags, or you may have Darkmere not wearing much, swimming.
True.
So I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but I started to think to myself, where are we? Like, these are beautiful. Where are we going to get to see them? And then I started thinking, oh my God, what about the world, the population of the world, the enemies we're fighting, the people we're talking to and doing quests for, the farmhands, the shopkeepers. And I started thinking, well, you know what? We may end up seeing a lot more of this than I was originally thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's a definite possibility. However, again, when you're talking about things that are constantly in motion, you're just not going to have the time to pause and look at that and admire, those little ridges on the neck of the, of the scar, or those 3 little ridges on the head of the archive. They're just not going to be seen. So I just question the level of money and time and effort put into that level of detail.
Also want to thank UK. Again, I'm horrible with pronouncing. You can fix me, but thank you for the follow. So Theric, who is our resident moderator, he's one of my partners in Pantheon Plus. He's a ranger. He's a ranger.
Well, he's going to see a lot of his naked whatever race.
And that's what he put in chat. So he's being a good sport right now. He just said this stream was a ranger's dream. We're going to look damn good naked at our spawn point if there's corpse runs.
The other thing with these models is, again, we're now only seeing them in a fixed T pose.
Mm-hmm.
What are the motions going to look like?
Of course.
I'm hoping that the Scar are not going to be as humanoid in their motions, standing all upright and walking with a straight-legged gait and arm swinging. I'm hoping they retain that more hunched down, broad-stepped, ready to pounce look that we've seen before, because I think that would just draw in and emphasize that more animalistic model that we've got here. I would expect.
Well, even Joppa sort of cheated, saying, "Doesn't it look like they'll just go down on all fours?" You think that was a spoiler?
Maybe, but then what are you going to do with weapons?
Sheath. Sheath's gonna. I know everyone's seen the streams and they're like, "Oh, I wish we could." You're gonna be able to sheath weapons.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, I just don't want them to be a humanoid upright walking, left, right, arm swinging, that sort of thing. I want something different, and I would say that the motions of the races should be different from each other. They shouldn't all walk with the same gait.
Yep. No, I agree.
But I plan on playing
lore.
I plan on playing a Scar Shaman. I plan on having a Scar Direlord, and these guys are going to give me nightmares.
I thought you were playing an ogre.
I was in the beginning.
Until you saw the Scar?
Well, until I saw the Scar, and I also thought that maybe, perhaps, possibly, the Scar would have either some form of regen, and that cannibalization would be a spell.
It has to be an active, right? I think everyone's thinking cannibalization has to be an active skill.
I disagree.
No?
I think that a Scar cannibalization spell could be very similar to the EQ1 Necro Lich line, where you're constantly kind of just draining off your health and your hit points to fuel your mana and fury and that sort of thing, where you have to activate it. It's not a buff, it's an active. You click it, and if you don't click it off, you're gonna die.
Yeah. Strata, thank you for the subscription there. I appreciate that, buddy. Now they're talking too, and this is actually real talk. Like, this isn't joking talk. It could be taken that way, but I think it's actually real talk. Someone said, well, they shouldn't all have to have boobs. Like, and it's an interesting concept that's ingrained in our head that is a humanistic quality. Do you agree with that? That like the Scar maybe don't need to have that?
Well, okay. So we're looking at clearly a reptilian race here.
Mm-hmm.
Why does a reptile have mammary glands? I'm sorry. I don't think it's necessary. Yeah. The other thing is why does a reptilian race have hair?
Wait, hold on. They look reptilian. I don't know that they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, you got a lot of scales and a few,
I love that.
Ridges.
Did you see the comment that just came in from
Ixar didn't have boobs.
Bobs.
Yeah, they kind of
No bobs.
But let's say that they are reptilian. I'm going to say they're reptilian. I think they look that way. If we look at what geologists have thought that the dinosaurs once had, that they actually had feathers.
Mhm.
So if we get
that would
rid
be
of the
interesting.
hair and put some sort of, let's say, feather plumage on the head, I think that would be a much more interesting look than dreadlocks.
Yeah. Interesting. So you like the Scar? You're going to play them. You kind of said,
Oh,
well, I don't know.
yeah.
You're worried
Well,
about animations, which we all are.
I'm
Animations
worried about
are,
animations.
Yeah, animations are going to be the end all to what the combat feels like. Animations are a big part of that. The archive, what'd you think of them?
I like them. What I'm seeing though is they've taken the human model, which they clearly designed first. They ran it through the photocopier at 65% and made an elf. They ran it through at 150% and made an archive, and have now just kind of made adjustments here and there. So you've got the same model with some different textures and bitmaps and bumps on it. But so animations will be the thing that will differentiate these, and I hope that they're different enough that it makes everything visually unique once they're all covered in armor and all that other stuff.
Well, it is interesting in this. So the from a standpoint of the body types, while we've talked about the humanistic, you said mammary glands is the way you explained it, which is the proper term for it. The Scar, if you notice in these pictures, are not wearing underwear. There's
Right.
no
Why?
Well, because their bodies don't seem to
Internal?
have, or they don't reproduce that way. So it's actually interesting
so
because
why
if you
would
look
an
at the
archive
others,
who's basically a rock creature with some glowing
well, that's
lava
what
stuff?
that was
why
my
does-
question. That was my question.
Why did
So
those two need it?
you can understand it for the dark mirror. Like I don't have a lot of question there, but it is interesting that the dark mirror, being an energy-based thing that became an elemental, that at one point there was a decision on that. You know,
Right.
the Scar, they made that decision. And then for some reason they made the decision they did for the archive. So it's actually interesting. I mean, maybe we'll learn a ton about it in the lore, and that's
Maybe we will. Again, I mean, it'll prove to be interesting. Now, I will have to go into the things I did not like.
Okay.
Because everybody expects
go.
that from me.
We love you either way.
Yeah, the definition of how soon we've been talking about soon for pre-alpha 5 for 15 months.
Well, we got a little clarity.
Yeah, we got quite soon is now some point between 0 months and 9 months.
But now
To
there's
me-
they gave, so for a company that doesn't give time frames, that was the first date they've given you.
That's pretty damn broad. I'm sorry. When somebody says, when do you want to do this? Quite soon. I don't look at my calendar and go, okay, I'm going to mark you down between now and 9 months from now.
Yeah. So
You know, I'm just like, and I have to ask, what is the holdup? What is
Dude,
it that is
they want-
preventing you from?
they
Again,
want it to
if you're-
be streamer friendly for the streamer program.
But here's the thing. That if
Listen,
you're
I'm not
doing
saying I agree with
testing-
it. I'm not
if
saying I agree
if
with
you
it.
need to do testing, you only need gray boxes. You know,
Yeah,
and
and they were pretty open that they're fine with that. They were
right,
showing it off
but
and everything.
we've got a lot of, I know we've got new spells and new abilities and the combat resources, all this other stuff that's going in there. There's got to be stuff that they could do some
Well,
testing on.
do you feel pretty good though that this system they're making is going to enable like the baseline testing before players
Yes,
get in?
absolutely.
So at least we're not sitting here like there's no testing going on. There is. That probably
Correct,
gives
yes.
them a pretty decent pre-base of testing.
And, again, that they alluded to that it allows them to do some first pass, second pass itemization adjustments on stats before they even get into testing. That's huge. That is going to save some time. I will give them that.
Awesome,
But,
man. Well, so you didn't
Quite
like
soon, 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and for anyone who might have missed the VR stream and they jumped in here to see what's going on, what he's referring to is they took. It's weird that they even take the questions, right? Because he could just ignore
Why
it and go
bother?
by
I
it.
mean, why read the question when you know you cannot give an answer?
So they read the question of, "Hey, when's Alpha?" Which good on Ben Dean for. I mean, I would
Right.
avoid it, but he said, we're not giving dates. We're gonna be very clear about that. As soon as we know, you'll know. He did jokingly say that he'll text us. So if there is a pledge level that gets instant text for different announcements, I may have to get into that. So
I'll spend more money for that.
the Ben Dean text.
Only if it's a two-way text, because I'm going to start sending stuff.
It'll be do not respond to this text. But then the next comment and what Vandrad's getting into here is they then talked about pre-alpha 5 and he said soon. And I think Frogs from VOT said how soon is soon? Is soon before 2020. And they actually said that pre-alpha 5 will be before 2020 is over. So that's kind of where the 9 months he's talking about is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in December, but they
but it's
actually
somewhere
did
between
now and the end of the year.
Tomorrow, March 7th and December 31st.
And I'm really curious.
So mark
to
your
see,
calendars out.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if we will see a streamer program in that phase, because I believe when they talked about the streamer program briefly a while ago, Ben was talking about how they wanted it to be for the Fairtale reveal experience. So I'm interested to see if pre-alpha 5 is not just going to be a pre-alpha testing phase, but where they're going to open up the streaming program to have this game seen more.
Well,
And
look at
that's
how
gonna be
much
interesting.
look how much Project Fairtale has ballooned in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, at first it was a reference zone, which will have all of the base mechanics of the game in there, so that you can test it, and it will offer you the experience that you would accept or come across in the entire game, all the climbing and the dispositions and blah blah blah. Then it started to explode, and now it's being touted as the complete continent of King's Reach. And I just have to wonder, it's like, really?
And well, we've seen that other zones have been worked on.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So you had some stuff you liked. You have some stuff you didn't like.
Again,
how would you rate it? How would you rate it overall?
I would say, it wasn't as good as the Fairtale.
Yeah.
But again, it was only 30 minutes, but I was pleasantly surprised. I like the models. I like what they're doing. I just, it's the vagueness on the testing, which is getting a little bit annoying, and I'm getting really tired of hearing it. And I'm also hearing from lots of other people that they are tired of the vagueness of everything, and they are looking to go elsewhere.
How good are you going to feel when it's announced?
Again, I will be absolutely ecstatic, and I will be hitting the F5 button on the pre-alpha login, going, when is this realm coming up? Until I can get in first. And
guys,
then,
servers are crashing. It's taking a long time getting in. Retry.
Exactly right, and just smashing my head against the wall, going, "Let me in."
All right, awesome, Vanjad. Thank you very much, man. Good points. Really good discussion tonight. I appreciate it. We missed you last
Always
week,
love
so.
chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Okay, we are going to grab Hoye in, and then Shepto, and then we'll do a little wrap up if no one else jumps in. And we will also, I know that some people have been keeping up with chat in there, and Theric, thank you for that. But let's go ahead and we'll bring Hoye in, and we'll also keep an eye on the chat here. Guys, let us know what you thought. What was your favorite part of this? Which race reveal was your favorite out of the three? Hoye, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Minus. Sorry, I was you caught me right when I ninja.
That's okay, man. It's bound to happen with the way the show's set up. so what's up, man? What'd you think of the totality of everything we saw tonight?
Oh, it's pretty good. I kind of missed the very beginning of the wet there for a minute. Had to put the little baby to sleep, but everything's good. I know people have been dying to see the models of so I thought they turned out.
What'd you think of the number crunching, the testing cycle? Specifically, they talked about tanks. I know that's something you're very into. We talked about that a lot last week. How do you feel that they're already really happy with simulations on how different the tanks play, but yet the viability of them was a pretty bold statement?
I like that. Obviously, I just put my own hands on it and see how they play, but I want all the tanks to be viable in their own way, and that's probably the biggest emphasis to make in their own. I don't want to see the Dire Lord being able to have a buff that gives them, like the same amount of a warrior just because he has a buff, But in their own way, I have ways to crunch numbers so they can figure out, things are going to play out and stuff. I think that's a big thing. Gameplay, I mean, that's huge. And then item stats are probably the second most important in game to me, I think.
Yeah.
Game.
The stats have to matter. When
do.
There's so many games where it doesn't matter that you got 10 more stam or 10 more agility. It has to matter. And at one point when WoW was really good, they had so many stats. Like you had penetration, spell crit. Like you had all these different ways to build your character, and I like that. It gave you different goals to hit. So it's interesting to see that if they're gonna, and he went into depth, like crit chance, avoidance skills. So there's going to be a lot of different things that you'll be able to build your character into to perform your role, which is interesting. And it seems like they're going to matter. We kind of already know that certain skills are going to play off different attributes. So now if the attributes are scaling well and the skills are playing off of them as they should, you can really do unique setups, so to speak.
Yep. And I think that's really important. I hope they kind of started off simple with, your kind of basic stats of what you would expect. And then, when the expansions come out, slowly build up on that. I don't want it to be, 5-6 expansions down the road. And then, things are just crazy. You got like 20 stats you got to keep up with just for DPS. And then, a whole bunch of other sets of stats for defense. I know I played EQ2 for a long time, and I took a break and I went back. And when I went back, there were just so many stats. It was ridiculous. And then I was like, I'm not even going to bother getting in. There's too much. I'm just going to head back out.
That is interesting. That's happened to me in quite a few games I used to play. I go back to play again, and I want to play, and I'm a max level character, when I quit, and it's like I don't know where I'm at anymore, and I don't want to start over, but I don't feel like I can continue. Like it's a weird thing.
Yeah. And then actually, I ended up going back a while back, or I don't know, a little while ago, and they actually nerfed all the stats. So you have primary stats, and you have like resistance, and then a couple other things. So they took all your stamina, strength. Nope, they just put it all into one primary stats. I was like, what the hell is this?
So they went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just terrible. So I mean, getting the item stats right is very, very, very.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the models? What are you? I know you're gonna play a warrior, but what are you playing? Do you know yet?
I generally always play a human. I don't know why. I guess I'm just not nerdy enough. I can't get into fantasizing that I'm an ogre or something like that. So I generally play a human, like I'm myself living in this random world with other weird creatures around me. But I was thinking about possibly playing Archai. I like the color that comes out of them. I forget exactly what that is, but I like that. And I don't know. I think I like the original one more. It was more.
Really?
Well, for me, because I always played humans, like it wasn't too far of a stretch.
Okay.
And now looking at these, I think they definitely look a lot better, detail wise. Something about them though, it looks like they just like they got burned alive, like they crawled out of a molten volcano or something. I don't know if it's a good fit for me anymore.
So kind of leaning back towards human. What did you think, even though you wouldn't play the other ones, what did you think of the models? Did the details surprise you the way it did me?
Kind of. I mean, as far as what most games will put into details for models like that, it's surprising. But I don't think it's surprising for Visionary Realms. They don't do anything unless they're going to go above and beyond. So
everything.
I'm kind of not surprised, but yeah. So I'm not surprised that they look this good. But I mean, it's awesome. I think the scars look good. I think a lot of people are talking about that, and I think you're never going to make anybody happy with the scars, but I think they look good. They're scary. They're
I
freaky,
like the height.
creepy.
I like that they're shorter. Now let's keep something in mind though. The Archai are a very tall race. At least when they first showed them all, I think it went Ogre, then Archai was the second tallest, if I'm not mistaken. So when you're looking at the scar versus everything there, it looks like the scar is going to kind of be a mid height, not as short. I think they look shorter compared to the two things they're shown against. They still might be shorter than what people thought they were going to be. But I don't think they're going to be they're not going to be halfling short or dwarf short.
I would hope not.
Yeah, they definitely.
I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of making this really scary, badass thing that you don't want to have anything to do with. And then, oh look, he's so cute running around there at 2'7", you know?
Yeah.
Kind of kill.
That's funny. That's a good comment. Awesome, man. Well, overall, what'd you think of the stream? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I want to see gameplay, but I mean, these are also the important things too. So, I mean, just the fact that we get twice a month, I think is good. So, I mean, I like it. I was a little bit worried, back a couple years ago about graphics. How great are they going to be? Not that graphics is everything, but what I've seen in the last couple of streams is just not. I don't even have to worry. They're on point.
Yeah, they really are. And I think that when we started talking about graphics on this show, and in the community here, one of the things we talked about was that realism is not a good way to go. Like when you're just going straight realism, and that games that typically succeed with graphics, because graphics are always getting better. There's a new graphics card every year, and there's a new game that's going to push the limits every year. So what was good this year is not going to be great next year. So the thing that separates a game aging well is to have style. And I think the one thing I would say is I'm with you where graphically I would have played Pantheon where it was when, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I would have played it then and been completely happy with it. That being said, I didn't think it had its own style back then. I thought everything was pretty generically realistic. And because the animations weren't super smooth, you lost a lot on the realism. But now I'm starting to see this style. And you kind of see it in the way the zones are designed in Fairthale. The coloring, it's like almost like a muted pastel-ish color on a lot of things. So you're starting to see this color toning. You're starting to see, even in these character models, you're seeing more style. And I'm very happy about that because the more they can stick with realism as much as they want, but if it's not overlapped with a lot of style, they're going to ultimately fail on delivering realistic graphics. But they can deliver on style because they get to write the rules for it.
Yeah, I think they're doing well with that. I agree.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. And sorry I missed you earlier.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, I'm actually just going to hang out in the green room this week. And I'll be first in line next week for Japa, okay?
Is this like starting in line? Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm starting in line.
Well, like I said, the big thing about the stream with Japa, we only have an hour. We typically go an hour and a half. So I'm going to do a half hour with me, getting some of the questions out there, and we're going to try to do a half hour with you guys. That is important to me. And again, I think it's only fair that the people who are constantly getting into the green room and wanting to come in, you guys are going to have some priority. But just do me a favor. Don't come in here asking for dates. Like, ask something that's going to get answered. We don't have a whole lot of time. So I know you will.
Well,
you'll be good.
Well, I mean, are you guys going to announce pre-alpha at the beginning or at the end?
Great. Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
All right. And we'll be bringing in Shepto for our last guest of the night right now. And we'll recap a couple things and we'll get some feedback from the chat there. Shepto, we're bringing you in now. What's up, Shepto? How are you?
Hey, what's up, Minus?
Oh, not much, man. Not much. Thank you for hanging on there. I know there was a little bit of a wait. So
no.
You're our last guest. No pressure. No pressure.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's already said all the good stuff now. In that, by the way, congratulations, Minus. That's awesome. They got a job coming on. That's phenomenal, man. So, there's some tidbits, and I didn't hear everything because we're talking in the other channel. But one little thing that they mentioned was the dark mirror or whatever you want to call them. Their city will be partially underwater.
It's dark mirror.
I know.
I'm fighting.
But I found that.
Yeah.
I found that kind of interesting. I know that's not a huge thing, but to have it thematically, and I know most people will overlook that, but I was like, they're going to be partially underwater, and I hope all the towns have some of that uniqueness, to it in that sense. But now we were just talking. I mean, a lot of I am curious if they're going to do another pass on the other models, which I assume they will, of course.
I think when you compare these ones we're looking at now compared to the elf and halfling that came out, like the original first run of the the elf and halfling, they look very similar. I think Vandrad was even saying that, or somebody was saying that, maybe Booch. But yeah, so that's a great question. If we're going to see the Passovers that we've seen on these, if we're going to see that on the other races.
And in my opinion, like these somewhat fit they're kind of, we all have mentioned they're all kind of ripped, right? Characters, these, I don't want that in all the characters though. I think like
maybe we'll
elves and halflings. Yeah, I hope so.
Don't worry, you won't have that in the gnomes.
I mean, you might want to be careful for some ripped elves coming at you, but I mean, it's
all
just
for show.
But that's something that I hope, because I mean, you have an idea of what those should be, to an extent in most people's heads, right? You don't think of a jacked up elf, but in that, but yeah, I mean, they look great, and I think a lot of people.
Real quick, we have a picture right now up on the screen of the dark mirror female and the male, and I meant to bring this up a while ago, and I apologize to whoever in chat said it. can't give you credit by your name because I forget who it was, but they had said one of the only things that they didn't like about the Dark Mirror is that the original concept art of the female was very majestic.
Yeah.
You know, they had the long flowing hair. It's funny because that really stuck with me, whoever threw that comment in. And every time I'm talking to you guys and talking to the guests and looking at the chat, as they come up, I'm looking at them. And I think it's still there, especially when you compare it to the other models you're looking at. Now, I know the other models are kind of ugly, but if you look at the curvature in their face, I think if you give them hair, they're going to look majestic. Like look at the curvature at the bottom of her face, the detailing and the markings. I think with hair and maybe some regal clothing, I think you're going to still get that out of them.
Yeah, and I think too that like we are taking these from T-pose pictures with no animation, and I think somebody probably said it. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you know, you don't know how tall the Scar really are going to be, or what these characters will look like in an idle state or in a moving state. These are just kind of baseline models. Of course, also you're going to have armor, so a lot of this you won't even predominantly see. You know, unless you're like a monk, maybe you don't have as much armor. We've been talking about that, you know. In that sense, but you know, these are what we got is good for now, you know, and I mean obviously animations and that detail will come later, but I do find it to be, I mean they're just way better than I think people expected them to be.
They're way better. I follow this game religiously, and I'm not gonna say I know it better than anybody else, but I follow it religiously because I'm a fan, and you know I do the show and I do all the other stuff I do. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the quality. Like I'm looking right now at the detail in the teeth on the Scar. I'm looking at the ripples in the rock. The Archai. Yeah. The Archai to me I did not like the old Archai. I know a couple people they have come on and said I did not like them at all. They looked like Captain Planet.
Yeah, you know, well, you know, and that's the thing is I'm sure some of the feedback be given may have changed their thing. The one thing I was weird and maybe I missed it, and I think we were talking about it is, so did they say they were going to have hair on the Archai? That's just weird to me a little bit. Like
all of them are.
I would think that they would have like rock form, like you could almost like use rocks or crystals to create hair almost in a different way. I think that'd be a unique thing that they could do, or even have like the energy that flows through them kind of come out of their head in a different pattern. I don't know. I'm just ideas, but like hair on them it's rock. I mean, they're like a chia pet after that. I mean, what, you know, I mean, in the sense for that, but it's just ideas. I mean, that's the other ones are fine. Obviously hair.
Maybe they wear wigs because they're just self-confident.
There you go. That's true.
What's that called?
That. And yeah, I know what you're saying. The other thing I have for you is so the stats thing, and I know that a lot of people talked about that, and all the different stats that they're going to have. Do you think they will display those on items, or are they just going to keep them in your primary stats that affect your crit damage, your crit hit, you know, style of things? Because like I think it'll be both.
I think it'll be both. Yeah, I think that and this is, nobody take this for like a guaranteed thing. What I'm about to say, this is hypothetical, but if, for example, agility contributes to dodge and contributes to critical hit and critical chance in some way, shape, or form, I think that you'll have a certain level of modification from the base stat, but then maybe have a larger amount of direct to one of those abilities on the gear as well.
From an item,
and it would have to scale that way, right? You can't have 5 agility equal the same as 5 crit, because then you're just going to push for more agility and you won't worry about the individual stats. So the individual stats have to carry a little bit more weight. And I'm sure this is all stuff they know and that they're working on, but that's kind of the way I look at it. I think you will see it on gear. Yeah, I do.
Because the challenge, I think, for them is 2 things that I've noticed in games that we've all played. WoW's problem is secondary stats usually provide more benefit than main stats in some of the later, you know, expansions. The other one is stat bloat on items. Like when you get an item and you have to basically
12,000 agility on it or something.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I'm not saying it should be so basic. You just look at it and go, oh, it has 1 strength more. Wear it.
That's a good.
But point. I mean, you know, you don't want something. I mean, if you go back and look at EQ live items, it makes my head hurt. You know, because it's like a block of stats, and so you kind of get this.
Addy Marcus just said that female Archai look like Thanos. Is that why I like them?
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna have to look for that. Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting what you're saying, because you brought up. This is a difficult discussion point for me. So I'm a numbers guy, right? And I really liked in WoW. I simcrafted like crazy. I actually taught my guild how to simcraft. I'm very much into that theory. Now the question is it's a chicken and egg conversation. I enjoyed it because I needed it. And it helped me clarify the gear and understand quickly. Yes, maybe not as quickly as just looking at a piece of gear, but it was a way to take the gear and say, what's better for me? And when you have a lot of different things that you're equipped with and different stats and different ability modifiers, you're just going to continuously, every detail of your character is going to further enhance the unclear, I want to say, like, it's not a word. I want to say the clarity of what's better than what will dim as there's more things affected by it.
Yep.
And there's no way to stop that.
Yeah. I mean, when you get that item and then you equip it and you're like, well, crap, now I got to switch these 4 other items because this, if whatever their cap system is, or if they have soft, hard, whatever, right? It's like, oh, well, I have too much, in the old days, you'd have like hit rating, right? Well, I have too much hit rating. Now I got to swap out 3 pieces because I got this item. And, it becomes, a lot of people do like that, right? But I've always, my viewpoint, and I know you like it, is like, you should never really have to go outside the game.
Yeah.
Like during the game you're playing to do a sim.
Yeah.
If you do it afterwards, that's fine. But it I don't know. It kind of breaks. Maybe it's a part of an immersion thing.
Yeah, it's definitely breaks immersion. You get a ton of gear, and I can't deny this. As much as I like the simcraft side of it, you can't deny that when a piece of gear drops and you get it, you should be knowing what you want to do with it. You should be excited to equip it.
Yeah.
A lot of times when it gets too complicated, you get a piece of gear and you're like, I'm really excited I got this piece of gear, but I can keep it in my bag and sim it.
Yep.
And that really takes away from the gathering of the loot.
Yeah, it does. And not every game does it. It's all different for each one. In that. I just noticed that in a lot of games because, and of course those games are long in the tooth. They got years of expansions and they got to find new ways to keep people excited, right?
X Mako says, can I get that from my alt? Can I get that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'll do you one better, X Mako. Can I get that for transmog? Can I get that? Can I get that for transmog?
Yeah.
I ain't got that transmog. If you don't need it, I'll take that for transmog.
Oh man.
Whisper someone,
I don't
be
think
like,
they'll run in.
Be like, just
I don't
take
think
it.
they'll
Just
have
take it.
too much of an issue at the beginning, right? Minus because obviously Pantheon being a new game, you're not going to have
the stat numbers are also going to be small,
lower. Yeah, exactly.
And that's important because it doesn't really matter, but there is a visual mind thing. Like when WoW crunched all its numbers, at one point you were doing millions of damage, and then all of a sudden you're doing 1,000. And while it really doesn't matter,
nope, it's proportional.
The human psychology is going to say, "Oh, I feel so weak now."
I know. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's completely psychological. So if they don't have to get to that point where they got to crunch everything because they keep things small and impactful on like if getting 1 or 2 agility is a huge, like, oh my God, this has 2 more agility, then that's really cool.
And they can build it that way. And then you can set your expectation, right, of what your gear will be, right? And people will adapt to that expectation. If you go from being 1 agility to 15 agility, by the, you're just like, well, now I expect there to be a 15 agility jump in the next, whatever. And then that's where you see the ball roll and snowball to being like, oh, I have 600 agility. And you're like, man, what? your numbers are just ridiculous, in that. And like a lot of people said, when you got into those massive numbers in a lot of games, right? What numbers mattered?
Yeah.
It was basically, if you're doing millions, it's the one before the dot and the one after the dot. All the other is just clutter. It's clutter on your screen. You don't need those numbers, right? So,
and just the fact that auto attack damage is, we're kind of getting crazy off. We're talking stats.
I know. I'm sorry.
No. I love this. You know me. We're talking stats. The reason we're jumping into this is because they talked a lot about the stats and itemizing the stats properly and test running the stats properly. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see how that goes.
And I'm glad they're test running that stuff. I mean, I know it's not the exact same, like they said on the stream, as a player playing that class, but it gives a baseline. It gives an idea, right, of what this should be. And that's the thing when you talked about tanks in the last thing about everybody kind of like, oh well, you know, Dire Lords may not be able to tank, right, or tank effectively. And it's like, well, you don't. Well, one, we don't know a lot about how they tank or what they're going to tank like, right? But you have higher hit point pools. You have abilities that do siphon health. You know, the amount of length of time you may have might be longer on a Dire Lord in the sense of their health pool alone, right?
Yep.
You may not be or mitigating a lot of that damage, but you are, you know, basically using different things, maybe higher parry chance, like I call them life taps, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Draining health, all that. So it is fascinating, and I think every class set, tanks, healers. Well, I mean, I think they do play differently enough, and from what we've known so far. But it is something that they have to have baselines for. Without that, how do you test the actual stuff? Right?
I think that, you know, nobody's going to want to hear me say this, but if we're not going to have pre-alpha coming soon, and we're not going to have alpha, we don't know dates, and we haven't had it for a little bit, and we haven't had testing, and there's this nervousness, like we aren't testing, like how's the game getting better? But then you find out there's these systems, and they are doing a ton of simulated testing. That makes you feel better. It makes you feel better about the gap quite a bit. I mean, it's tough because we all want to play. I don't want anyone to think that there's a misconception that I don't want to freaking play this game. I want to play this game just as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
I just want it. I need it to be right.
Yep, you're right. I mean, they get usually one chance, right? Most games have one chance.
And if anyone checks out the other game I've been playing recently and hyping up, the one chance they had, the game is fantastic, but they had a bad launch, and it's killing the game, even though the game is fantastic. So it's and I'm telling you guys, you got to be ready. You got to be ready to support this game. This is off topic, but when this game launches, every single MMO who's ever launched has had problems. Every single
you are right.
one. So I'm going to tell you now, it is March, what is it, 6th, 5th? March 5th. I don't even know what the date is. It's March in 2020. I'm telling you, when Pantheon launches, I don't care when it launches, there are going to be problems. Please get the right mindset. You're supporting the game right now. You're a part of the community. Be here to help it through. This is an indie company. Every single person who's supporting this game is doing it with somewhere inside where they want indie companies to succeed. They want the little guy to win, right? Yep. They don't want, everybody hates Blizzard. We hate EA. We hate Activision. Oh my God, I hate Microsoft. Listen, it's like cool to hate big companies and whatever, that is what it is. But you can't hate big companies and say, I am all about indie companies, and I want to, indie's the way, and I'm going to support indie. And then when they have difficulty because they're indie, because they don't have endless money, because they can't project what it's going to be like at launch, they can't just overload servers for no reason. You have to say to yourself, well, I want indie to win, so I need to support them. And it drives me crazy. Minus. It drives me. You cannot have it both ways. If you guys are tired of modern MMORPGs, which nickel and dime you from these mega corporations and don't care because they have a ton of people who will still play and still buy from the cash shop, then if you don't want that, you have to support indie studios through the hard times. Grow a set and help. Sorry.
And I always say you're fine. You're fine. There's two types of indie for me too. There's indie single player and there's indie multiplayer, right?
Yeah, indie single players are different. Yeah.
You got to give them more leeway than if an indie single player game doesn't function out of the box, then you can, it doesn't have the server requirements. It doesn't have a lot of that. And, but multiplayer games, man, are a beast unto themselves. And you got to give people a little leeway on that stuff. And if not, I mean, what hope is there for video games? In
you got to be willing to stand up for something you want.
Yes.
In the good times and in the bad times, you have to. Yep. That's the only way it works.
And you and I talked about and I know a lot of people when this game does launch, and I know we're way off a tangent, but do not have them open more servers. You and I've talked about this. I know queues suck or whatever they decide to do, but the whole point of Pantheon is community. It's always been about community. It's always about grouping. It's about doing raids. It's about having fun with other people. And if you make servers and make too many of them, you will have a dead server and people will burn out, or they will be like, there's nobody on my server. And you don't want server transfers.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't want server transfers. So I'm willing to put up with that queue time if I have to, right? Because I want there to be people there.
Yeah,
to
we don't
play
we don't
with.
want them to build 10 servers because all of a sudden on day one it's big, and then after month one they have to shrink them.
Yes.
So
Exactly. And
we need our communities. We need our communities. All right. Well, hey, I'm gonna.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, listen.
On
I absolutely
stuff,
love
so.
it. We're still under time at this point. We usually go an hour and a half. We're at 125. We are perfect. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy this conversation. I think that this is something to maybe bring forward in a future show because it's an interesting topic when you talk about what it means to support an indie studio and why you're supporting an indie studio. Deep down, no matter what we want to say, we're all doing it for the same reason. We want a new story. The same way we felt about Blizzard however long ago, which I don't hate Blizzard, but a lot of people do. The way we felt about Blizzard back then was because of what they were at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We want another one of those. So freaking help them.
Yeah.
The industry is nuts right now. So
it is. It is. And it's a struggle for everybody. And, you know, the more we complain, the less of these quality games you get, right? And I think people are discouraged from making them. And I
which
don't
is why
want
I
that to
hope they don't
happen.
put this on Steam, because I don't want the Steam reviews.
Yeah, I know.
seriously.
I mean, because people are passionate about video games, and this is my hobby, and I don't want my hobby to be less of something, you know, because of people can't basically regulate their own, you know, like ideas of what things should be, and it's a struggle. So, but no, man, congratulations again, man. It's gonna be awesome next week. And that I hope everything.
I'm sure it'll go well.
I'm sure you'll have quite a few fun questions from the community. I'm sure. So like, you know, where's Alpha?
Bring it, guys.
So
every time I'm gonna I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that doesn't happen.
They should. People should behave, right?
Yes, I mean, we want more devs on, right? We want to get Ronik on here. We want to try to get more, and this is the start. So you guys did this. You guys did this. Like this is for you. You're going to be able to talk. How many of you have gotten to talk one-on-one direct with a developer, the head developer of the game, the creative director of a game, and ask the questions you have at this stage in gaming? I'm hoping this is going to provide people a chance to have something different. So let's make sure
I know you're
it's
being
awesome.
humble, and it is partly us, but it's also you as the conductor that gets us to this point. So, you know, you should take some credit. I know you're being humble, but
I think it's just because I put Vandrad on and he gets people all fired up. That helps.
Because basically, without you, none of this exists, and then you don't even have it. So, we're happy to be here and help out. So, but I'll shut up now because you gotta go. So, but yeah, thanks again, Minus. Appreciate all of it, man. So.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And how would you? Past your expectations?
Yeah, you know what? I think, like you said, Fairtale, hard to beat that, right? I give it an 8.5. You know, I think that's not a bad score. I know everybody's like, it's not a 10.
It's not always going to be a 10. It'd be unrealistic.
Yeah, and that's passing in school. At least it was when I was in school.
Yeah. Well, now I think you can get a 0 and pass, so you're good.
Oh, well, that's true. So, but no, I would say that Minus 8.5. I think that's a great thing. I don't think people expected those models to be that thing. So I like it. I think it's good. And it didn't need to be super long. I know everybody's like, it's only 30 minutes. Hey,
when they first debuted that these streams were going to happen, they said they would be about 30 minutes. So
yeah. And
some of them have gone
you're
longer.
lucky if you're lucky if you get longer, you get more beans. But you know, but no, great stuff, good stuff all the time, man. So
all right, awesome, Shepto. Have a good night, man. Thank you.
You too. Yep.
Awesome, everybody. So once again, the big news, in case you missed it, and you're kind of like, what are they talking about? Throw the teaser up here. Pantheon PlusYou, March 12th, 9 o'clock next week, next Thursday. We're going to have Joppa on live with us to take some questions from me, take some questions from the community. Really just humbled, excited, nervous, super thankful. And I'm excited to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions because we're going to take questions from the community. You guys are going to come on the air just like you do now, green room and everything. Come on, get to talk with Joppa. I'm sure it's going to be interesting for him because it's a different format, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you aren't in our Discord yet, I just linked it in the chat. Jump into our Discord. It's a great community. It's a lot of fun to hang out. Jump in there, and you can get on the show anytime you jump into the green room. But on top of that, follow us on Twitter at Pantheon Plus. if you haven't yet, because we're going to be giving out a lot of information about this stream. And we hope that you guys will help us spread it as well. Because if we as a community can make this a big deal, we can get a lot of eyes on this. We can make it worth VR's time to take away from their development to come on the show. Hopefully in the future, we'll get more opportunities and even help other content creators get more opportunities as well. And that's really important to us. So thank you guys very much for everything you've done so far, everything you're going to do in the future, and all the support you bring. Thank you, Slayton X, for your follow there. I know I missed that at the moment it happened. Thank you for that. And we'll see you guys next week with Joppa. Thanks, everybody.